While the U.S. has historically been the world's largest emitter of CO2, with the most greenhouse gas emissions in cumulative terms. Between 1751 to 2010, emissions from the U.S. energy and industrial sectors accounted for nearly 28% of the global total. Now, cumulative emissions from the U.S. are about 3 times that of China. Now, for China, by the end of 2020, the nation's carbon intensity was reduced by over 48% from the 2005 level. And the share of non-fossil fuels in China's primary energy consumption had reached nearly 16%. And according to a study by Tsinghua University, China's carbon dioxide emissions could plateau by 2025 before declining around 2030 with reinforced management policies in emission reductions. And now let's get some more analysis into this topic, and I'm pleased to be joined by Shen Yiyang. He's a senior energy consultant at the Asian Development Bank, and we are also joined by Bob Ward. He's the policy and communications director at the Gratham Research Institute on climate change and the environment. Great to have you both on China 24. Now, why don't we begin with Mr. Shen here in Beijing? This is the first visit by a Biden administration official to China, and the talks will certainly center on climate issues. Why does climate cooperation stand out on the two sides' agenda?
Well, I think for both countries, climate change is an important issue. Both governments also consider this issue very seriously. So in addition, as you just mentioned, these two countries are the largest emitter of the world. Therefore, future, if we want this solution can be effective, then these two countries have to be cooperative. In addition, China's new strategy is so-called high-quality development. And Biden administration also have big budget spending on infrastructure and also climate change, renewable energy, and so on. So talking about the global value chain of this new area, the two countries have to cooperate.
And yeah, now let's get some perspective from Mr. Bob. Now, with climate issues facing the whole world, what would China-U.S. cooperation mean? I mean, of course, this is a global endeavor, but what kind of positive signs can we read from this visit, despite the previous rough negotiations in Alaska?
Yes, well, we've seen before that the leadership of China and the United States together on climate change can make a big difference. It was a declaration made by President Obama and President Xi in 2014, a year ahead of the Paris Agreement, that really provided momentum for us to reach the landmark Paris Agreement. And we are now at another stage where we need the leadership of China and the United States together as the two largest emitters and also as the two biggest economies in the world to show that we can accelerate action, because we are running out of time to try and avoid the worst impacts of climate change. And we need China and the United States to show, in particular, that you do not have to sacrifice economic development and growth in order to tackle climate change. You can produce sustainable growth and development for your people. And that's the critical importance of this relationship between the US and China.
Yeah, now leaders around the world are, gradually pushing for or prioritizing the fight against climate change. Now, we mentioned earlier, Mr. Shen, that Biden is set to host an Earth Day summit next week. And China says President Xi Jinping will also attend a climate summit Friday via video link. How do you read into the slew of actions taken by leaders around the country to commit to this global endeavor?
Well, I think for both leaders, so this is also a good opportunity to work together. So despite the two countries have some difference, I think both two countries will need to work together and find the common interest that's also what the world expected us to do.
What about you, Mr. Ward? Was President Xi scheduled to talk with French and German leaders? What can we expect from China-EU cooperation on fighting global warming?
Well, Europe is the third largest emitter of greenhouse gases. So between them, the US, China, and the EU account for almost half of global emissions. And it's really important that all three of those political groups agree a way forward. Europe has got a very ambitious climate plan, and it has laid out a very clear economic plan, which has at the heart of it tackling climate change. So between them, these three groups can drive action across the world by leading by example. And of course, China, incredibly influential around the world through the Belt and Road Initiative. And we need to see all of these countries using not just leading by example domestically, but using their foreign policy to encourage other countries to follow a cleaner path as well.
All right, thanks so much, gentlemen, for your insights into this topic, Mr. Xin Yang and Mr. Bob Ward. Appreciate it.